Hey everyone, it's Alex, and you're listening to the Everyday Stories podcast, a podcast about the everyday stories from the people you know and the people you don't know, here to help you learn a thing or two about life and the stories that define us. Today we're talking to Veronika Stetska, a copywriter and self-published author on Amazon. In her working life, she's focused on the importance of storytelling and community building. Her passion for storytelling led Veronika launching her Substack called Tea Time with V, where she writes articles about lifestyle, design, interiors, fashion, beauty, and stories that you can read over a cup of tea or coffee if you prefer. We're going to be talking to Veronika about what makes New York great, from the food and culture to the fashion and hidden gems. What does it truly mean to be a New Yorker? Welcome, V, to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I first wanted to start off and ask, what is your relationship to New York? How long have you lived here, whether it's upstate or in the city?
Yes, so I love that question because I've been in so many places in New York. I grew up in Yonkers, New York, which is downtown Hudson Valley. So it's part of Westchester and very, very close to the city. It's about a 30-minute drive. I was originally born in Ukraine, but I've been raised in New York all my life, so New York is my home. And then I went to school upstate in New Paltz, New York. So that's near Poughkeepsie, and that's about an hour drive away from Yonkers. And I've been in the city since 2021. I've been all over New York, from upstate to New York City, Albany, and even all the way up to Canada, even though that doesn't really count. Yeah, I've been in New York pretty much all my life, and it's my home. There's so many hidden gems in New York City, upstate, and kind of like in the middle Hudson Valley too.
You mentioned that, being or living in way upstate New York, closer to Canada, doesn't count. And actually, my question, like after this one, was I know that you're probably a bit biased, but do you think upstate New Yorkers versus people who have grown up in the city are considered real New Yorkers? Why or why not?
I do because you have access to living in New York, but also you're a train ride away to New York City, and you get kind of get the best of both worlds. When I was living in Yonkers, a lot of people said, "Yeah, that's upstate," and I don't really think that because it's 30 minutes away from New York City. So I dormed on campus when I was in New Paltz. After graduating, I decided I wanted to go back to New York City because there was something that was just calling me there. I did a couple of internships there, and even living in Yonkers, I was 30 minutes away. So if I ever wanted to meet up with a friend who was in the city, or if we wanted to do a New York City date, that was really possible. And a New Yorker is someone who lives in New York. So honestly, if you want to call yourself a New Yorker, you can be living in Westchester, you can be living in any other county in New York, and you're still a New Yorker.
It also makes me think about when you were mentioning that Yonkers, some people think it's like not part of the city, it's more upstate. It makes me think about when I went to school in Jersey at Rutgers, how there was like a North Jersey and a South Jersey, and there's this belief of whether or not there's a Central Jersey. And if you're from the North part or the South part, you only believe that there's a North and a South. But if you're from Central New Jersey, you believe that there is a central. But what's so funny is that like the border of where north to central is or like central to south is not very clear. So it's everyone kind of just like playing a guessing game. But Central Jersey is real, just like Yonkers can be part of the city.
Yes, I don't know if it used to be the fourth largest city in New York. And
Yonkers?
now, yeah, and now I think it's number three or number two. It's a growing city. A lot of people who, want to make the move from the city the suburbs, but not be too far away. I think Yonkers is a great destination for that. There are a lot of great landmarks, historical landmarks there. One of my favorites is also Untermeyer Gardens. It's a really nice hidden gem, but we'll talk about it later. Um, and yeah, there was a whole conversation about what's considered upstate, right? So I think I remember talking to someone, it's like, well, if you can't take the train to where you live, like the subway,
Oh,
then, you're not in New York City. And geographically, Yonkers is not a borough, right? But it's so close that sometimes I thought it was.
mm,
And then when I went to school upstate, then I was like, okay, that's a big difference than Yonkers because it really felt like upstate.
yeah. And I've also heard too that when I first moved to New York, people said you have to be living in New York for at least 10 years to call yourself a New Yorker. Do you believe that's true? Why or why not?
For me, I think after 3 years in New York City, right? If we're talking about New York City, you really know the ins and outs of the city. But for New York, I think whatever timeline you give yourself, that's important to you, right? There's no set definition of like, okay, how many years do I have to be in New York to be considered a New Yorker, right? I think it could take someone a year to navigate the city or New York, or it could take someone 5 or 10 years. But there is definitely a big shock when you relocate from a different state to New York. And then you really notice that difference of like, okay, New York is not like any other state. And I've been to a lot of states, and there's always that feeling of like, okay, I really do miss home. I do miss New York. There's that spark that New York has. But I don't think, you need to be living in New York for a certain amount of time to be considered a New Yorker. A lot of people might disagree with me on that. That's an unpopular opinion. I don't think so. I think even when I first moved to New York City, I didn't know my way around my area. I didn't know the local spots. So it took some time, but you really need to kind of put yourself out there, try new different spots, try new different restaurants, and then you'll feel more like a local.
Yeah, I always found when I first moved to just walk around
Yes.
because the city, it's so densely populated and there's like a different restaurant or bodega on like every single block. So the
Hmm.
best way to explore different areas in New York is simply by walking around to get a lay of the land. Because now I feel like there are certain areas of the city that I frequent the most and I know them like in and out. I don't even have to like pull up a map to understand where I'm going. But there's other areas, more like I would say like closer to Central Park and up, where I don't really know, or like in Queens, I not besides Flushing. Otherwise, like I don't really know those areas that well, but it's all about just like walking around to see what's going on. Because
Yeah,
there's always something going on.
exactly. And the way that I see it is just to be a tourist in your own neighborhood. Um,
Mm,
and that's how you can kind of get lost in your neighborhood, but then also find new places. Because every time I go for a walk, there's always something new that I encounter or I find, even in my local neighborhood, or if I'm visiting another borough, Queens, Brooklyn, there's always something new to find. But you could have your favorites and your frequent stops, but my suggestion is to try something new when you're on your daily walk or see something new.
yeah. I always feel like New York ages you. It's gonna like in the sense that there's always so much going on and you're gonna have FOMO. I remember again when I first moved that there were so many different activities or events that I wanted to do or places that I wanted to see or try out. And still I have not been able to get to all of them. And the answer to that is I know I never will, and that's okay because there's always going to be something. Like there are going to be events that you miss and you don't have to feel bummed out about it because there's always going to be another event to go to. So either way, I feel like my social schedule in New York is just insane. I'm always like beep bop booping around. And I just, sometimes I think I never have enough time to sit down and read a book, which I probably could read a book on the subway because people are doing that.
Yes.
But I'm just like, oh, I'm just like running around all the time. But I like doing that. I like doing that. But I think it's all, again, all about balance of, pick and choosing of the places and things that you want to do. Also without breaking the bank as well, because that's another thing.
Yeah,
While
exactly.
also just taking time for yourself to lay a bit low.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about New York is that you never really get bored. And when I hear someone saying, I don't really know what to do, there's always something to do. And even if you want to make an experience out of reading a book, in the past year, I've had the chance to read a lot of great books. I gave myself kind of like a bucket list goal to read a certain amount of books. And I was able to kind of bop around the city and read a book in a different area. So one of my favorite moments was reading a book at Elizabeth Street Garden
Mm,
in Soho. And that was really nice because I'm, in an environment where I feel calm and peaceful. And I'm also fulfilling one of my goals on my bucket list was to read more. So there's always something to do. And like you said, reading on the subway, no one really bats an eye if you do something outlandish or something, unconventional. So it really pushes you to be yourself. So if you
hmm.
weren't a reader 3 years ago and you want to be someone who reads more, you can do it and make an
Yeah.
aesthetic out of it if you want to.
Make an aesthetic out of it. I feel like New York is an aesthetic.
Yes, that's another thing. You can also just glamorize being a New Yorker, even if you've been here 2, 3, 4 years, and if you think that there's something else out there, there are a lot of things out there, and there's obviously a lot of great states and destinations outside of New York, but you can always glamorize it. And I think that's one thing that, pulls me back to New York whenever I visit other places. It's the ability to um, tap into another persona that you have.
What's so interesting about what you said to glamorizing New York is there was a point in time, I want to say like a year ago, or maybe it was last summer, where a lot of influencers posting about like, oh, my day in the life of New York and like all the amazing things that I'm doing. And then there were some almost like counter influencers, but maybe like smaller creators that said, no, like living in New York is like a whole other beast. Like if you think about it, it's jam packed. There's always traffic. The trains, they work or they don't work. You just never know what you're getting yourself into. You never know what's going to happen on the streets, on the subway. It smells a lot more in the summer with like the trash or the rats. But I think in a weird way to like counter all of that is it almost builds your character a little bit. So
Yes.
you do experience all these things, and yes, they're not the most glamorous things, but that is the whole thing about how New Yorkers are seen as not necessarily nice but kind. But then, like, I heard that, people who are like in and around California are seen as like nice but not kind, all that type of stuff. But I think that's why I love New York is actually the kindness of strangers versus their niceness in a way.
Yeah,
Um, and it's so interesting to see like all the different dynamics. Like you truly never know who you're going to meet in New York.
absolutely. And to your point, about how New York City ages you, it also forces you to grow up faster. Because it makes you tougher. And it's not just New York City. I think in general, there's so many opportunities, and there's also a high competitiveness, and there's just so much competition around, which is a good thing because it pushes you to be a better version of yourself. So whether it's getting into a certain university, getting into a program, exploring different hobbies, it really pushes you to build your character, um, and also to go outside your comfort zone and meet new
Yeah.
people. I think I've met so many people since, I moved officially to New York City, and I never thought I would be someone, that goes to networking events or just, sparks a conversation with someone that I met. And I think that's really exciting because you can still do that outside of New York City, like in, upstate and Hudson Valley. But I think it's like less scary to do that in New York City.
Mm,
That's one of the differences that I noticed, because everyone has their own like little bubble
yeah.
when you go outside of New York City. And I noticed that shift whenever I, visit family outside of New York City. I'm like, oh, I definitely feel like more social in New York City.
Mm. Yeah. Oh my
So it,
God.
it pushes me. I didn't know I had that in me. And then I really felt that I like to be around different communities and meeting people that share the same interests.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
New York makes me think about how, to your story, when I came into the city, I always saw myself as like the jock or the athlete and not a creative person. And still to this day, I struggle with saying like I'm a creative person because I truly don't think it's innately within me because I did not grow up necessarily in an environment where I could be super creative because I just swam all the time growing up. But I think the more time that I've spent in the city, the more that I realize, like, oh, I am doing all of these creative things. I am like writing a lot, or even like doing this podcast, or like figure drawing, or all these different things that I never thought I would tap into. And here I am, like doing all these creative endeavors. And honestly, truly, I feel like I have changed a lot, or maybe become like a more well-rounded person because of that. Also, just New York in general, there's so many different like cultures and like cultures in terms of like food. We could talk about
Yes.
that. Is you truly could walk around any block and you are going to find a different restaurant. And most of the time, it's going to be really good food. And my question around that is, what is it about the food in New York that makes it so good? What, like, compared to, I'm gonna walk around somewhere in upstate New York and like way upstate New York, more in like a suburb type area, but it doesn't necessarily mean all the food is that good or all the food is that diverse. So why is it New York, like this city, that makes the food so damn good?
I think it all goes back to community. And there are so many diverse and amazing communities all throughout New York. I live in East Village, and it's a predominantly so there's a Ukrainian village basically, and there's a lot of Ukrainian restaurants nearby. And one thing that I love about going to a restaurant that I've never been to is the fact that you can feel like you have been transported to the country that, the restaurant is focused on, right? So whether it's a Korean restaurant or Ukrainian restaurant, Georgian restaurant, you really feel like you're transported there. And the food is great. The people are warm, and also kind. And it's almost like the food speaks to you in a way because you're
Uh,
surrounded by so many people who are appreciating the culture as well. So it's the community building aspect, the appreciation for the cuisine, and I guess the atmosphere too. I think that's what makes a lot of restaurants here great. The atmosphere combined with the food and the community really ties everything together. And it's not something that I really was able to, find other places, unlike New
yeah.
York.
And what are some of your top favorite restaurants in the
Oh my God,
city?
this is such a
I know
put me
there's
on the
so
spot.
many. There's so many. But if you could list a couple, maybe like three.
Okay. So I'm going to give a shout out to Veselka. That
I
and
knew
it's
you were gonna say
I say that
Vasilka.
because I have to. The amount of pierogies that they make on a daily basis is crazy. I don't know really what the stats are, but they make a lot of great, authentic Ukrainian food. If you haven't been there, you definitely should. So I loved going to this place called Osteria Marini, and they had really, really great pastas. Unfortunately, shut down, and they had $15 pastas. And it was probably my way of kind of like decompressing from the workday and meeting friends on a Monday. It was $15 pastas on Mondays, and it was a great experience, whether it was takeout or, dining in. My favorite was dining in. It's no longer there, unfortunately, but that used to be one of my favorites as well. And then another restaurant I love is, can I talk about a bakery or a cafe?
Yes.
Okay, one of my favorites is La Cabra. And you're
It is
laughing.
a classic. It is a
It's a
classic.
classic because it's Danish inspired as well. And they actually have a location in Copenhagen, Denmark. And they have two locations in Soho and the East Village or East Village, Lower East Side. And that's kind of just like where I get my comfort pastries. Um, yeah.
The La Cabra in Soho is so nice. It almost
It's
feels like a more social setting than even a bakery in itself.
Yes, that one's very packed all the time. I go to the one in the East Village, but I love it. I don't know what it is about it. I think it obviously is the food, but it's the feeling that I get when I'm in there. I'm like, there's nothing that compares. I mean, I try to make my own coffee and try to make my own baked goods at home, but I don't know. I just feel different when I'm there. Like I feel like I'm in like an elevated bakery with like I don't know, maybe like a Japanese and Danish fusion. That's how it that's how I feel when I'm there. So I really do like
Yeah.
Okinawa.
I love whenever someone says, "What's your favorite restaurant in the city?" I always say that it's Souther. I don't know if you've been to Souther.
Yes, so I have a couple of friends that have been there. I haven't been there yet, but it's actually local. It's in the
It
East.
is so good. You have to go. It's Thai restaurant. The food there is insane. Always is so difficult to get a reservation sometimes because everyone knows how good the food is. But the reason why I found out about Souther was because actually the person that gave me this tattoo,
Mm,
this one right here, I asked them like, "What's your favorite restaurant in the city?" And they said Souther, that they always go there for their like big celebrations. And so I like put it on my list, and then when I eventually went, it was just like ungodly, like so good.
I have to put that on my list because I think you're the third or fourth person that told me that. So I
Yeah,
definitely have to go.
you
And I
have to go.
walking by it, and I definitely have to go.
Definitely. And then I used to say before Souther, I always said my favorite restaurant was actually Kiki's. If you know where that is, it's more like LES, Mediterranean. We would always get like this, it was like this baked cheese, something like that. And then this like octopus was so good. Oh, and then they had like their wine was like also insane. Also the ambiance of it, it was like
Yes.
very moody and so like so amazing. If you ask any New Yorker what their favorite restaurant is, everyone's gonna tell you a different answer because truly there are so many good places to eat that like not everyone can pick the same ones. I mean, I feel like there are some establishments, but otherwise, like everyone has their own favorite restaurant in the city. But
Yeah.
speaking more towards fashion, so New York, I know, is seen as a hub for fashion. And obviously, there's like more historical significance around that too. But why do you think, in your opinion, that fashion is seen as like one of the hubs, or sorry, New York is seen as one of the hubs of fashion?
I think the ability to express yourself in New York is incredible. There are so many ways to feel inspired whenever you step out. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's a casual outfit or if it's, more um, elevated or, wherever you're going. I definitely do feel inspired by streetwear or just anyone who's just walking around. I follow a lot of accounts on Instagram that's kind of like I think it's called like New York, like what people are wearing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you can see like what people are, stepping out in. And I also really like the street interviews when someone stops and says, "I love your outfit. Like, what are you wearing?" And you really do feel inspired by how people dress, how people style certain things, and um, it encourages you to kind of just step outside your comfort zone because style is always evolving, always changing, and you can always tap into something that you never thought that you liked before. Um, and that's just what I love about, fashion in New York City. And there's really no right way to dress here. It's whatever you think is best for you.
Has there ever been someone that you've come across in the city where it it has left a mark in your head of, oh my God, they like looked so amazing. They were slaying that outfit. Like want what they were wearing. Also, what was it, if you remember?
I mean, that's a great question because I'm always in the process of changing my wardrobe, whether it's, spring cleaning, eliminating things, or just seeing like, okay, do I really wear this? For me, like a perfect outfit is something that's chic. So whenever I see someone that's just like, I don't know, all like the colors don't have to be in the same color palette, right? But it's like well tailored, confident, confident walk. Basically, whenever I see someone in a confident outfit, that's what I feel inspired by. Because if you think that, your outfit isn't great, but you step out with confidence, that's what makes the outfit.
What I feel like the craziest like outfit that I've seen in New York, which isn't even an outfit, it's more so like an art piece, if you will, um, was with this man. His name is Jeremy Hutchinson, I believe. Oh my gosh, I hope I got that right. But he is like this in-person artist, public artist, and he was working with the Orr Foundation, and the Orr Foundation is a nonprofit that's based out of Ghana, and they are trying to bring the message out there about fast fashion and the impact that it's been having on the beaches in Ghana. Because essentially, now I'm going on this tangent, but
No, it's
all of
important.
a lot of these fast fashion brands. So yeah, yes, you can think like Shein, but also you have to think about like Disney, Nike, Adidas, a lot of these like athleisure brands as well. Primark, there's so many other ones, but essentially, if their clothes are not bought by people and there's this massive overproduction of the clothes, the way that they discard them is they basically send them to Ghana. And Ghana doesn't have a system in place to intake the millions of clothes that are coming in every single day. And what happens is they end up on their beaches and then they have to do these like massive beach cleanups where there's tons and tons, like literal, like metric tons of clothes on the beach that they have to like get rid of and basically burn them because because the clothes, the material that they're made out of, and also the fact that they've ended up on the beach, they're basically garbage. And the only way to get rid of it instead of it piling up over time is to literally burn all of the material up into the air. But also Ghana has like the biggest secondhand clothing market in the world, I think.
Wow.
And so the way that I'm going about all this is Jeremy, when he was working with the Orr Foundation for this particular project that ended up in New York, he actually took a bunch of the clothes that came from the secondhand market there in Ghana, and then made a piece out of it. So he had like chicken wire basically with this like 7, 8 foot tall structure that was broken up into three pieces. And he had like one on his head like this, one that was like he had like straps on his body and then it sat almost like a skirt. And then
Oh,
like somehow like a centerpiece too. But he like walked around. You have to like waddle around with like it was basically looked like a mountain of clothes that was like moving in the streets. And everyone was all, like everyone looked and were like, what is going on? Like what is happening right now? Like this is so New York, but also everyone saw it and they would just like also walk away. But some people would take a pause and be like, what is happening? But I feel like that's like the craziest outfit, costume, art piece that I've seen in the city, and hopefully it like made an impact on some people. But I wanted to ask you too if you've heard of the 2 to 3 block rule in terms of dressing up. Have you heard of this?
no, I haven't heard, but I am so interested. I'd love to know. What is
So I can't even remember who told me this, but maybe it was just some rule that one of my friends followed. But they essentially said that if you are going outside your place for 3 blocks or less, you can wear whatever you want. Like you can wear your pajamas, you can wear like some random athletic clothes, sweatpants. You can look like garbage and like go walk the streets to like do your groceries or if you have to go to like the bodega or something like that. But if you go more than 3 blocks, then you have to like dress up. Because I always find too that everyone in the cities like looks so good all the time. And so sometimes it like almost like motivates you to like, you have to like look the part. But if you're going under 3 blocks anywhere, you can wear whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But
Oh
if
my
you go
God, that's
outside of it, you have to
interesting.
like dress the part.
So I've definitely broken that rule many times. Well, it also depends on my mood, I think. I think that's also a great way to like figure out how you want to dress, right? Or what style you want to embody. Like what are you feeling? How are you feeling? Are you feeling like dark colors, brighter colors? Do you really want to be bold? And sometimes I've definitely used the 2 to 3 block rule and just said, okay, I'm just going to throw out anything. And other times I'm like, no, I really want to make a statement today, or I really want to wear something that I haven't worn and feel good about it. But that's so interesting because I always feel like everyone's just very fashionable around
Yeah.
me.
I also have some like more rapid fire questions, which could be completely different topics on their own, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to speed run through them. The first question is, why do you think New York City is the epicenter of culture?
I think there is a way to connect with different cultural communities in New York City. And there's also a way to share different ideas and meet people from different cultures and also learn new ways of living. Um, get inspired to learn a different language, and also, be a part of different communities and, visit a new restaurant that you haven't been to, or go to maybe an exhibition that's centered around, a cultural movement that you haven't been to. So there is always a way to find your niche, whether it's on the cultural side or it's on an interest side. There is a way to meet up with someone that is part of your culture and also a different culture as well. And I went to Yonkers and I went to an international baccalaureate high school, and that is pretty much kind of like a cultural fusion, of a lot of people. And I went to school with a lot of people from different cultures, nationalities, countries, and that really encouraged me to be, very open-minded, and also appreciative of different cultures and cuisines and languages. I'm really interested in learning more languages too. And I love when I, come across a language that, that I'm familiar with. I'm probably not maybe fluent in, but I'm like, oh, I can pick up on that. So it really encourages you to be open-minded. And I think the open-mindedness of New York City is what makes it a cultural hub and a cultural epicenter.
What is your top hidden gem in New York?
Right now, so it used to be Elizabeth Street Garden. That's somewhere that I used to always love to just walk around, read a book. Sadly, I'm not sure if they're closing down or not. There have been rumors that they're closing down officially. I'm not too sure where they are right now, but I recently discovered like a showroom called Quarters. I think it's around in Broadway or somewhere in Soho. And it's kind of like it's a cafe, wine bar, and interior design showroom. And it mixes all of my like my three passions or interests. I love coffee, I like wine, and I like design. So when you go in there, you don't really think of a showroom. It's just kind of just like a building. But I went there during the holidays, and it was really nice because they designed the showroom with a holiday theme and holiday inspired stuff. And I always take my friends out there for lunch or just for like a chit chat session. So that's my favorite current hidden gem. It always changes because of how fast New York changes, but Quarters,
Oh,
Broadway, definitely the
hopefully an
best.
influencer doesn't post about it and then it like ruins the hiddenness of it.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? It's not so hidden because a lot of people discover it and you want exposure. But that's the thing, right? Is it really a hidden gem if you want more people to
True.
visit it? So it's kind of like a contradiction in a way.
Yeah. The best hidden
It's a
gems
gem.
are
Yes,
kept
the best hidden
secret
gems are a secret, but I really do like exploring new places and kind of telling people about it and saying it's a hidden gem,
for sure.
but not really hidden anymore.
Yes, yes. We don't like to gatekeep our hidden gems. We want to tell people.
Yeah.
And then last question is, what have you learned over the past year that you're going to take into your new year of life?
I think what I've learned, the best piece of advice is to not say no to an exciting opportunity. And that's because you never know who you may meet or what may come out of that opportunity or situation. Whether it's, being on a podcast or doing an interview with someone who you knew from an event that you visited a couple of years ago. I think saying yes to any opportunities that excite you, will take you places. This is not New York City inspired, but I joined a social networking club called Monday Girl, and they're actually based in Toronto. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, no.
But I've been a member for a couple of years, and they actually have meetups in New York City and San Francisco and big cities. So, I think like me 3 years ago would be a little bit scared to join a social networking club where it's more focused on career and social. But right now, I'm in this phase where I'm okay with saying yes to things and meeting new people and exploring other interests and passions. So that's one of the best pieces of advice that I learned.
I love that. And also, I wanted to say thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. I love talking about New York, what makes New York great, and all of like our little tidbits, like either if it's like restaurants or little hidden gems for people where they can explore. I like to finish and close every episode with a quote. And I don't know who actually authored this quote, but I found it when I was at the Williamsburg Hotel rooftop, or they have like this water tower. It's like an empty water tower that you can go up. One of the best views in New York, in my opinion. And they have a bunch of different signs like about New York that are like placed around the water tower. And one of them, I don't know if this is like the actual quote, but this is just what I remember from reading it, was that they said something along the lines of New Yorkers are the people who came into the world a little bit late and are trying to make up for it. So we're really just trying to like do the most. And I feel like that really encapsulates like our whole conversation. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Veronica, for hopping on the podcast. And thank you everyone for tuning in as well.